This evening, John Lennon arrived at the emergency room. He was dead at the time of his arrival.
Anyone who followed John Lennon's tragic murder in 1980 knows that his wife, Yoko Ono, was an important witness who saw how the whole thing unfolded. However, to avoid the haunting repetition in her mind, Yoko Ono resolutely kept that tragic story secret for more than 4 decades to protect herself. Today, when the sadness of Yoko Ono's loss has subsided, she mustered up the courage to recount that horrifying moment and at the same time reveal more little-known facts about John Lennon. Please stay calm to listen to his scary story. According to Yoko Ono, on December 8, 1980, she and Lennon returned to their residence at the Dakota apartment building in Manhattan, NY. And they were ambushed by Mark David Chapman, a man whose actions would forever alter the course of music and culture. That evening, Lennon was shot multiple times by Chapman, a disturbed individual who had been lurking outside the Dakota for most of the day. According to Cheat Sheet, officers arrived at the Dakota apartments within minutes of the shooting. Upon their arrival, the building's doorman quickly identified Chapman, who was standing calmly, waiting for the authorities. The Washington Post reported that the doorman, horrified by the scene, confronted Chapman, exclaiming, "Do you know what you just did?" To which Chapman responded with chilling calmness, "I just shot John Lennon." Chapman was promptly arrested by officers Peter Cullen and Steve Spiro, who found him standing near the entrance, clutching a copy of J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye. This book, Chapman later claimed, was his statement and motivation behind the assassination. Inside the Dakota, the gravity of the situation was unfolding. According to Behind the Music, Lennon, despite his grievous injuries, managed to struggle up 5 steps before collapsing. His condition was dire, covered in his own blood, and initially unrecognizable to the arriving officers. Officers Herb Frauenberger and Tony Palma were the first to reach Lennon. As Frauenberger checked for a pulse, he realized the magnitude of the situation upon recognizing Lennon's identity. In a desperate bid to save his life, the officers made a swift decision. Lennon was placed in the car of another arriving officer, James Moran, who sped towards Roosevelt Hospital. Frauenberger followed closely behind with Yoko Ono in his car, offering her whatever comfort he could in the face of such a profound tragedy. At Roosevelt Hospital, Dr. Stephen Lynn led the emergency team in a frantic effort to save Lennon's life. However, the situation was grim. As Dr. Lynn later recounted, Lennon arrived with no blood pressure, no pulse, no signs of life, and 3 gunshot wounds in the left upper chest. The severity of his injuries was such that even under the best possible circumstances, survival would have been unlikely. Dr. Lynn poignantly noted, "If Mr. Lennon was shot in the midst of a cardiac operating room with a cardiac operating room team standing by all ready to fix his wounds, I don't think they would have been able to save him." At 11:07 p.m., John Lennon, aged 40, was pronounced dead. The news of his death sent shockwaves around the world, leaving fans, friends, and family in a state of disbelief and mourning. The senseless act of violence had ended the life of a man who had dedicated much of his own to the pursuit of peace and love. However, Yoko Ono revealed that what makes this tragedy even more chilling is Lennon's eerie premonition of his own demise. In a 1965 interview, Lennon speculated about the potential fates of the Beatles, saying, "We'll either go in a plane crash or we'll be popped off by some loony." This statement, made years before his death, underscores an unsettling awareness of the potential dangers that fame could bring. Chapman's motivations for committing this heinous act were a twisted mix of religious zealotry and a perverse desire for notoriety. A devoutly religious man, Chapman was reportedly incensed by Lennon's 1966 remark that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. This comment sparked considerable controversy at the time, drawing ire from various religious groups. For Chapman, it seemed to fuel a growing obsession with Lennon. Beyond his religious indignation, Chapman harbored delusions of grandeur. At a parole hearing, he candidly admitted, "I felt that by killing John Lennon, I would become somebody." This warped rationale highlights the dangerous intersections of fame, mental instability, and the desire for recognition. According to Yoko Ono, given the time and location, it is not surprising that several witnesses were present, each of whom would forever carry the memory of that horrific event. Among the witnesses was a cab driver named Richard Peterson, who found himself an unwitting observer of the unfolding tragedy. In a documentary recounting the events of that night, Peterson describes the surreal experience of seeing Mark David Chapman call out Lennon's name and then pull out a gun. "I'm looking at him through the front window of my cab," Peterson recalls. "I'm looking at him shoot him. This guy just shot John Lennon. I thought they were making a movie, but I didn't see any lights or cameras or anything, so I realized, hey, this ain't no movie." Peterson's disbelief highlights the shocking and surreal nature of the crime, an act of violence so incomprehensible it seemed more fitting for a film than reality. Another witness, a woman named Nina, approached Chapman immediately after the shooting. According to her account to the New York Times, she confronted Chapman, but he coldly told her to go away. This brief interaction underscored Chapman's disturbing calmness and detachment in the moments following the murder. Inside the Dakota, Jay Hastings, the front desk clerk on duty, also became an integral part of the tragic narrative. Hastings vividly recalls the chaotic moments that followed the shooting. Lennon, despite his critical injuries, managed to stagger up 6 stairs into the lobby where Hastings was working. "He runs past me, he goes, 'I'm shot,'" Hastings recounts. "He had blood coming out of his mouth, he just collapsed on the floor. I half rolled him to his back and took his glasses off, put them on the desk. And Yoko was screaming, 'Get an ambulance, get an ambulance, get an ambulance.'" These witnesses, along with the police officers who quickly arrived on the scene, all played a part in the immediate aftermath of the shooting. Officers Peter Cullen and Steve Spiro arrested Chapman, who made no attempt to flee and instead stood calmly waiting for the authorities. The doorman, having witnessed the shooting, pointed Chapman out and reportedly yelled, "Do you know what you just did?" To which Chapman replied with chilling simplicity, "I just shot John Lennon." As Lennon lay critically injured, officers Herb Frauenberger and Tony Palma were the first to reach him. Recognizing the severity of the situation, they swiftly transported Lennon to Roosevelt Hospital in the car of Officer James Moran, with Frauenberger following closely behind with Yoko Ono. At the hospital, Dr. Stephen Lynn and his team made every effort to save Lennon, but the damage was too severe. Lennon was pronounced dead at 11:07 p.m. The years following John Lennon's tragic death marked a period of profound sorrow and upheaval for Yoko Ono as she grappled with the devastating loss of her beloved husband. In the wake of his passing, Ono found herself navigating a landscape of grief and uncertainty, struggling to find meaning and solace in a world forever altered by tragedy. In a poignant 1990 interview with the New York Daily News, Ono offered a glimpse into the depths of her sorrow, revealing, "After John died some days, it just wasn't that important for me to go on." The loss of Lennon, her soulmate and creative partner, left an indelible void in her life, one that seemed insurmountable at times. Yet amidst the darkness, there was a flicker of hope, a reason to carry on. Their son, Sean, emerged as a beacon of light in Ono's darkest days, providing her with the strength and motivation to persevere. As she navigated the tumultuous waters of grief, Ono found solace in her role as a mother, drawing upon her maternal instincts to guide her through the storm. Reflecting on her journey of survival, Ono shared, "As a mother, I told myself, I gotta survive." It was a mantra born out of love and necessity, a testament to her unwavering commitment to her son and the legacy of hope and resilience she sought to uphold. While Ono never remarried following Lennon's death, She found companionship and support in the form of Sam Havidtoy, an antiques shop employee with whom she shared a long-term relationship spanning 2 decades from 1980 to 2000. Despite the significant age difference between them, their bond remained steadfast, providing Ono with a source of comfort and companionship during her years of mourning. The details of Ono's relationship with Havidtoy remain shrouded in mystery, a private chapter in her life that she chose to keep out of the public eye. Yet their connection served as a lifeline for Ono during a time of profound loneliness and heartache, offering her a sense of companionship and understanding that helped ease the pain of her loss. Throughout the years, Ono remained rooted in the same New York City apartment that she once shared with Lennon, a place haunted by memories of their shared love and the tragic events that unfolded on that fateful December night. Despite the painful reminders that surrounded her, Ono found solace in her art, channeling her grief into creative expression and using her platform to pay tribute to Lennon's enduring legacy. We all didn't know this until Yoko Ono revealed it. John Lennon was bisexual. According to Ono, Lennon had a desire to have sex with men, but never acted on it due to his inhibitions. "I think he had a desire to, but I think he was too inhibited," Ono stated. She explained that Lennon required both physical and intellectual attraction to a partner, saying, "He said, I don't mind if there's an incredibly attractive guy. It's very difficult. They would have to be not just physically attractive, but mentally very advanced, too. And you can't find people like that." Ono addressed rumors about Lennon's relationship with the Beatles' manager Brian Epstein, who was openly gay. Despite widespread speculation that Lennon and Epstein had a sexual relationship, Ono clarified that Lennon was not sexually involved with Epstein or any other man. She recounted a specific story that suggested otherwise, but ultimately concluded there was no sexual intimacy between them. Well, the story I was told was a very explicit story, and from that I think Lennon and Epstein didn't have it, sex," Ono explained. She acknowledged that Lennon and Epstein did share a close and intense relationship, which Lennon himself described as almost a love affair, but not quite. He elaborated, "It was never consummated, but it was a pretty intense relationship." Ono believes that societal norms and limitations played a significant role in Lennon's lack of sexual intimacy with men. She recounted a profound conversation she had with Lennon, where they discussed the inherent bisexuality within everyone and how societal pressures compel individuals to suppress these feelings. "John and I had a big talk about it, saying basically, all of us must be bisexual. And we were sort of in a situation of thinking that we're not bisexual because of society. So we are hiding the other side of ourselves, which is less acceptable." Reflecting on her own experiences, Ono expressed that she does not have a strong sexual desire towards other women, contrary to what many people might believe about her. "I don't have a strong sexual desire towards another woman," she admitted, but noted that both she and Lennon always appreciated beauty in all its forms. In addition, Yoko Ono also shocked John Lennon's fans about his addiction. According to her, John Lennon's drug use, particularly his addiction to the insidious white powder, played a significant and detrimental role in the dynamics of the Beatles, ultimately contributing to the band's dissolution. By 1969, Lennon was deeply entangled in the insidious white powder addiction, a habit that exacerbated existing tensions within the group and introduced new, more severe challenges. According to Salon, Lennon's insidious white powder use was at its peak during a period already fraught with interpersonal conflicts among the Fab Four. This era saw the Beatles grappling with a range of issues, from creative differences to personal grievances. The presence of Yoko Ono alongside Lennon, combined with their open drug use, only heightened the sense of disarray. George Harrison, Paul McCartney, and Ringo Starr watched with growing concern as Lennon and Ono indulged in the insidious white powder, a drug far more potent and dangerous than any they had previously encountered. Lennon himself attributed his insidious white powder use to the profound grief he and Ono experienced following her miscarriage in 1968. This personal tragedy plunged them into what Lennon described as real pain, seeking solace in the numbing effects of the drug. However, some accounts suggest that Lennon's insidious white powder use began even earlier, possibly as an act of rebellion against his bandmates' reluctance to fully accept Ono as an integral part of their circle. Lennon's claim that the insidious white powder was his way to rebel underscores the complex interplay of personal and professional frustrations that marked this period. The impact of Lennon's insidious white powder addiction on the Beatles was profound. His mood swings became increasingly volatile, transforming into explosive rages that strained his relationships with Harrison, McCartney, and Starr. These mood swings were notably problematic following a severe car accident in Scotland, which left Lennon in significant physical pain and likely intensified his dependence on the drug. As the Beatles commenced work on their final studio album, Abbey Road, the atmosphere within the band was tense. The three other members had to navigate Lennon's erratic behavior carefully. Normally, they might have contested his insistence on having Ono present during studio sessions, but given his fragile state and the evident pain he was in, they chose to tread lightly. This unspoken compromise reflected their awareness of Lennon's precarious condition and the deep-seated issues affecting the group. Lennon's addiction not only affected his interactions with his bandmates, but also influenced the creative process. The need to manage his unpredictable behavior likely constrained the collaborative environment that had previously fueled their musical innovation. The presence of the insidious white powder in Lennon's life introduced an element of instability that was at odds with the disciplined creativity required to produce their iconic music. Ultimately, the combination of Lennon's insidious white powder addiction, personal grief, and the resulting interpersonal strains contributed significantly to the breakup of the Beatles. The band's dissolution marked the end of an era in music history, a poignant reminder of how personal challenges can profoundly impact even the most successful and seemingly cohesive groups. It is worth mentioning that the destruction of the Beatles caused Yoko Ono to be entangled in an unreasonable suspicion. Many believe that John Lennon's acquaintance with Yoko at this time played a role in the band's undoing. Yoko Ono then shared details about the couple's early life in order to dispel these malicious rumors. In the summer of 1967, amidst the cultural revolution sweeping the globe, John Lennon's soulful voice resonated through the airwaves with the timeless anthem, "All You Need Is Love." It was a declaration that encapsulated the spirit of the era, a rallying cry for peace, unity, and love. Little did he know, as he belted out those words alongside his bandmates in the Beatles, that he was about to embark on a deeply transformative journey of love and activism. It was in this same year that fate intervened, bringing John Lennon face to face with the enigmatic artist and activist, that is, Yoko Ono. Their meeting was no ordinary encounter. It was a collision of souls, a meeting of minds that would alter the course of Lennon's life forever. From the moment their eyes met, there was an undeniable chemistry, a magnetic pull that transcended words and explanations. By 1968, Lennon and Ono had forged a bond that surpassed mere romantic infatuation. They shared a profound connection rooted in mutual admiration, creativity, and a shared vision for a better world. In a modest Parisian ceremony, devoid of pomp and extravagance, they exchanged vows of love and commitment. Clad in casual attire, they eschewed tradition, opting instead for a ceremony that reflected their unconventional approach to life and love. The wedding, as reported by Ultimate Classic Rock, was a succinct affair, completed in a mere 10 minutes. It was a testament to their desire to strip away the frivolities often associated with weddings and focus instead on the essence of their union. a union dedicated to the pursuit of peace and harmony in a world plagued by turmoil and conflict. In the wake of their nuptials, Lennon and Ono embarked on a honeymoon unlike any other. Instead of basking in the idyllic splendor of a tropical retreat, they chose to use their newfound marital platform to amplify their message of peace and love. They staged Bed-ins for Peace, a bold act of protest that captured the attention of the world. With the press in tow, they invited scrutiny into their most intimate moments, turning their honeymoon suite into a sanctuary for dialogue and activism. In a 1971 interview with Rolling Stone, Lennon shed light on their unconventional choice, stating, "We decided that if we were going to do anything like get married, that we would dedicate it to peace." For Lennon and Ono, marriage was not just a personal milestone. It was a declaration of their shared values and a commitment to using their platform for positive change. Throughout his life, Lennon wore his love for Ono like a badge of honor, often speaking openly and passionately about their bond. He once famously declared, "I can be alone without Yoko, but I just have no wish to be. There's no reason on earth why I should be alone without Yoko. There's nothing more important than our relationship. Nothing. And we dig being together all the time." A sentiment that encapsulated the depth of their connection. Their love was a constant presence in their lives, an unbreakable bond that weathered the storms of fame, fortune, and controversy. Rarely were they seen apart, their lives intertwined in a dance of love and creativity that captivated the world. But theirs was not a love story without its complexities. Before Ono, there was Cynthia Powell, Lennon's first wife, and the mother of his eldest son, Julian. Their marriage, born out of youthful passion, soon faltered under the weight of Lennon's burgeoning fame and the pressures of a tumultuous relationship. The cracks began to show, and in 1968, their union came to an end when Powell discovered Lennon in the company of Ono. The dissolution of Lennon's first marriage sent shockwaves through his personal life and reverberated within the fabric of the Beatles. It was said that the pain of their separation inspired Paul McCartney to pen the iconic 1968 hit Hey Jude for Lennon's young son Julian, offering solace and support during a time of emotional upheaval. You might not know this, but in a startlingly candid 1980 interview with Playboy magazine, Lennon himself acknowledged these troubling aspects of his character. "All that, I used to be cruel to my woman, I beat her and kept her apart from the things that she loved, was me. I used to be cruel to my woman and physically, any woman. I was a hitter, I couldn't express myself and I hit. I fought men and I hit women." This confession laid bare a history of violence and emotional turmoil that extended into his marriage with Yoko Ono. As reported by Listverse, Lennon's abusive behavior did not cease with his first marriage but continued into his relationship with Ono. This ongoing struggle with aggression was juxtaposed with his fervent advocacy for peace and love, leading to a profound personal contradiction. As he explained in the same Playboy interview, "That is why I am always on about peace, you see. It is the most violent people who go for love and peace." Lennon's admission underscored the internal conflict between his violent tendencies and his public commitment to pacifism, suggesting that his activism was a response to his own battles with aggression. Lennon's troubled relationships were not confined to his romantic partners. His first son, Julian, born from his marriage to Cynthia Powell, experienced the brunt of his father's emotional volatility. Lennon described Julian's conception as born out of a bottle of whiskey on a Saturday night, reflecting a deep-seated sense of entrapment and resentment towards his first marriage. This starkly detached and regretful sentiment was indicative of the strained relationship between father and son. Julian Lennon has been candid about the emotional distance and lack of affection he felt from his father. Contrasting his father's public image with his private reality, Julian remarked, "Mum was more about love than Dad. He sang about it, he spoke about it, but he never really gave it. at least not to me as his son. This poignant observation highlighted the disparity between John Lennon's public advocacy for love and peace and the personal neglect and emotional absence experienced by his family. Despite his anthem, "Give Peace a Chance," Lennon's life demonstrated a recurring failure to live up to the ideals he championed. His confessions and the accounts from those close to him reveal a man who, while promoting peace and love on a global stage, struggled profoundly with personal demons and contradictions. What do you think about Yoko Ono's revelations about John Lennon? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.